My name's Stefan Hyde, as Jackie mentioned. I'm the automation manager at Asahi Kasei Bioprocess America, and I'm also an active participant in the BioForum plug-and-play workstream, which is part of their technology road mapping work group. I'm excited to be here at TIDES today with you and to have a chance to talk to you about how we, as a technical solutions provider, fit into your Pharma 4.0 journey, how to help define your goals for digitalization, and what some incremental steps might be that we can help you to use to realize that goal. I'll first give a brief introduction about AKBA. AKBA has three primary divisions: purification, fluid management, and biosafety testing services. I'll talk today about fluid management. That's my home division, and it's also the most relevant to the topic and to the oligo industry. The fluid management business philosophy is centered around our company values, built with pride, built with quality, built to meet your high expectations, built for you. Both our company and our company vision and mission, I think, are central to the topics of today's presentation. Our vision is to deliver tomorrow's technology today. We want to keep you on the cutting edge so that you can continue to deliver innovative solutions to your customers. And our mission is centered on building partnerships. We firmly believe that a rising tide lifts all ships, and that's why we're investing so heavily in these collaboration efforts like BioForum. The fluid management division is devoted to solving therapeutic product safety, efficiency, and purity challenges within the pharmaceutical and bioprocessing industries. Our goal is to advance GMP manufacturing of critical drug substance around the world, and we do that with a variety of technology platforms, including equipment, but also automation integration solutions. Oligos are one of the most promising therapeutic modalities for today and the future. AKB has been supporting oligo manufacturers and developers with equipment from synthesis to purification since 1998. And our aim is to help manufacturers around the world meet this growing demand for oligo drug substance. Now back to the title slide, what is Pharma 4.0? I'm going to introduce the topic for the purpose of our discussion, but I'd encourage you to attend Yvonne Duckworth's presentation tomorrow at 8:30. Yvonne Duckworth of CRB, who is here today, as she's really the SME on the Pharma 4.0 operating model and its application. I'll simply focus on some key attributes and benefits and focus on some incremental changes that we can help you with as an OEM and a service provider. We get down to the roots a little bit. Pharma 4.0 is coined by the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering, or ISPE, is a specific introduction of Industry 4.0 concepts to the pharmaceutical industry. The term Industry 4.0 refers to the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution, which you might imagine is preceded by the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. I threw some dates on the slide, but the boundaries of these periods are defined differently by different groups, and that's because, of course, especially in the early technologies, regional adoption is very different depending on where you were. But broadly speaking, we can agree that the first industrial revolution was defined by early mechanization, such as steam power in the weaving loom, the second by mass production with the assembly line and electrical energy, the third by automation and electronics, and the fourth and current industrial revolution by the Internet of Things and broad-based networks. Pharmaceutical production based on Industry 4.0 factory design really becomes Pharma 4.0 when these ideas are applied to GMP validation and GAMP requirements. Pharma 4.0 is not a product, but rather a framework that consists of many elements and enablers. The elements here being resources, information systems, organization and processes, and culture, and enablers being the digital maturity and data integrity by design. This operational model is applicable to processes all the way from initial product development up to commercial manufacturing. These terms, elements and enablers, come from ICH's Q10 guidelines for pharmaceutical quality systems. The ICH Q10 elements and enablers are shown in gray. I think you'll find these very familiar: corrective action, kappa, etc. The new enablers are shown in, new elements are shown in blue, and when these elements are combined with the new enablers, in this case digital maturity and data integrity by design, they form a holistic control strategy and a complete product life cycle. It's important to note that this digitalization effort, while it uses a lot of IT jargon, is not an IT project. It's really important that this project is a project for your entire organization. This model requires information exchange both vertically and horizontally throughout your plant, and that means that all departments and stakeholders need to be involved. They really need to collaborate to properly identify your CQAs, critical quality attributes, and your CPPs, critical process parameters, which are tenets of the ICH-Q10. I'll apologize ahead of time for all the text on this screen, and we won't go through all of it. But I thought it's important to include because I think all these guidelines are great. We must maintain a vision of the future to make sure that we're on the right track today. But this perfectly digitalized, adaptive Pharma 4.0 plant, I think, can sometimes feel like a pie in the sky. And it can be hard to understand where we stand today and what the next incremental steps are to get there. We'll talk about those steps, but I want to share this digital plant maturity model, which was put together by the Bioforum IT collaboration group. It provides a great summary of some different levels of digitalization that we see across the industry, and that might be helpful for you to evaluate where your plant currently stands and where you want to be. And maybe that goal is a level 5 totally adaptive plant, and maybe it's not. As we look at those levels 1, 2, and 3 are easily recognized, I think, for most of us. Moving from paper-based processing to islands of automation, and then finally to full-blown DCS control in level 3 with ISA 88 concepts, control of multiple unit operations, et cetera, as are elements of level 4, such as inline quality testing, process simulation and modeling, and things like that. As such, you might not be surprised to find that BPIT conducted a survey, and they found that most pharma companies are at level 2 or 3 and incorporating some elements of level 4. Of course, before we propose a digitalization project, we have to understand what the benefits are. I've summarized a few here. The first being quick access to data and real-time reporting, which of course supports your critical management decisions. This technology is intended to support your workforce. It helps with operator training, it reduces human error, and it gives them the information that they need to identify issues and gives them feedback to, for example, to the maintenance team to minimize downtime. It helps minimize data loss with robust backup technologies, which helps you prevent throwing away good product. Another key point, it prevents equipment obsolescence. Right now, a lot of equipment is made obsolete because it applies to a bespoke product, or it relies on institutional knowledge about the process or about the equipment. That means that if those people move up in your organization or they leave your organization, it leaves you reeling. We need to support continuous process verification and continuous process development and operator training with today's equipment. That equipment needs to be prepared to be really user-friendly. It must be adaptable. It must change with your process. As you learn new things about your process, no matter how good your DQ was, you're going to have to make changes and adaptations. And we need to simplify that as solutions providers. Digitalization enables real-time batch release. It can reduce your holding time. The Pharma 4.0 approach would be to have immediate concurrent release of your batch and supporting documents. And finally, these technologies can really reduce your waste. Process analytical technology, PAT, can be used to control blend composition, detect deviations, and make product decisions based on your critical process parameters once you've identified them. I think that automation is easiest to identify in terms of a benefit at the process level throughout existing plants. Processes that were formerly manually done are now being automated, and even very simple unit operations have a huge benefit to automation in the fact that you have data continuity and continuity of reporting. So even though that might not save you that much time in that unit operation, it does enable you to take the same electronic batch report approach, all the same reporting approaches that you have in your surrounding technologies that might be more complex, and that can really save you time in analysis and QA, and it supports your customers' need for the data. I want to pick on a few technologies that I think are overlooked, specifically in the oligo industry. The first being cleavage and deprotection. Currently, the liberation of the oligo is often done manually with repurposed equipment. Deprotection is often conducted manually also in a standalone vessel. Already, synthesis, purification, concentration, lyophilization, those steps are automated in most plants, leaving C&D as a gap. This is a gap that AKBA intends to fill. We already have a number of C&D systems installed, and we're working to make them better with your feedback as we go along. Chris Oswald mentioned in his talk earlier this week the importance of controlling the dosing rate during the TBDMS dacylylation reaction. Automating this process enables precise control of this rate. It enables you to minimize the reaction time while staying under safe temperature limits, and for many people, those are both critical process parameters. Next, buffer formulation systems are an easy way to advance the automation of your plant. They allow you to produce large quantities of buffer with a small footprint and very short amounts of time. Additionally, buffers can be produced on demand to meet the needs of your surrounding equipment. In fact, a single buffer formulation system may be able to supply your entire line with solvents, or at least several unit operations, and can do so without operator intervention. While buffers are the focus of this technology, I think it's worth noting that these formulation systems can also be used for solvent blending and delivery and control of the supply to your tanks throughout your plant. AKBA has long been a staunch advocate of buffer preparation technologies for over a decade, and this includes our motive technology, which was formerly called IBD, and we're really excited about some recent industry adoption of this process and the traction that was gained by the Nimble Bioform Collaboration Skid, buffer stock blending skid. I'd encourage you, if you haven't seen it already, to check out some of the white papers that they've put together, and they have some quick informational videos about the product as well. A broader technology that I think is underutilized is PAT, process analytical technology. An easy example here is inline conditioning of buffers for your IBF or your Chrome processes. A significant portion of our customers are still using mass flow and other basic control mechanisms, ending your step based on a fixed volume or your fractions based on a fixed volume. But that's fine when those basic criteria do really define your process, but it is prone to operator error. For example, if you have an improperly mixed stock solution, you're going to have an improperly mixed product after you do a mass flow blended recipe. The Pharma 4.0 approach is to then identify the critical process parameters for your batch or your continuous process and allow the automated system to control them, or at least to make decisions based on them. A widely adopted example, of course, is fractionation by UV signal. I think we all expect that that's how you're going to use that piece of equipment, but there are boundless opportunities remaining. Perhaps a detection of a failed coupling based on some process indicators. As an OEM and a technical solutions provider, our role then is to provide you the options and the tools to identify these things. Flexibility is key because, as I said, you're going to learn new things about your process as you go, and you need to be able to act on that knowledge to be able to capture a benefit. Now I'll talk about some newer technologies in our OCELOT System Control platform. I think to support the idea of data integrity by design, it's important that we understand the underlying architecture. We can adapt to a number of different plant designs, but here's a peek under the hood of our basic setup. On the IT side, we're Windows 10 enterprise based. That means easy interaction with Active Directory, time synchronization, network printing, scheduled backups, etc. On the OT side, we use Allen Bradley Compact Logix PLCs, which are very integration friendly. We provide an option that we call OPC ready, and that with that option we provide either a dedicated Ethernet port at the PLC or an OPC UA server at the SCADA PC. That means that we're ready to plug into your PI system. Your historian can collect directly from our PLC or from that OPC UA client. We're ready for controller supervision from your DCS or direct messaging with other PLCs, Siemens via Modbus TCP, Delta V via VM2, et cetera. And that might be a little bit more relevant for just a single piece of equipment that you're trying to integrate with, but still interesting. More on OPC ready. I think that often when we're thinking about connecting technologies, we really focus on the point of connection. But what really enables this technology is all the underlying architecture. And for us, that means that we have a standard and modular data and tag structure for all relevant information. That means that I, as an automation engineer, can look at a PNID that AKBA has provided you, and I can tell you all of the different registers in that UDT that might be interesting to you for integration without ever looking at the code. They are modular, they look the same for every process value, and that makes it really easy to integrate. This enables live data monitoring for process values, alarms, batch status, valve status, etc. We can take remote commands for batch start and stop, pause, hold, step ahead, step back, and remote recipe download. We're also prepared for integration with surrounding equipment. That could mean tank or solvent supply requests. We send a request to you, you fulfill the request, you tell us that your supply system is ready, and then we proceed with our batch once we've confirmed. We can do tank level control of our outlet. So if you're prepping buffer, you have a level sensor and it tells us my tank is full and I'm going to wait to prep any more buffer until I have demand for that buffer again. We can then integrate also your plant-wide alarms and interlocks and support your utility interactions, whether that's an individual heating and cooling unit that's connected to our system or you have some plant-wide utilities. Finally, we can support full process visualization on the DCS, basically a redundant HMI. We'll still give you an HMI for internal testing and commissioning, but if you have everything on Delta V and you want your operators to look at a system on Delta V, that's fine. We're going to give you all the information that you need to recreate that HMI. On the IT side, as I mentioned, we're Windows 10 Enterprise based. What that means in a little bit more detail on Active Directory, all of our process control privileges are based on Windows user groups. And so your Active Directory users can be used with our system without any additional synchronization. We do time synchronization as well. We use the Windows time as the master for everything. So if you have an NTP server, all you have to do is update the Windows time, and everything throughout our process control software updates as well. We easily enable remote desktop network backups and asset management. I'll go back to the top of my slide since I skipped it. All of our systems are developed on virtual machines, and we deploy to physical hardware only as necessary. We can provide those systems as virtual machines instead. And we're seeing that a lot of customers are choosing to take that route. We store all of our data in standard formats. I mentioned the OPC UA access to live process data, but then kind of overarching data like recipes, overarching batch status, audit trail, alarms and events, et cetera, are in a SQL database. So if you have a PI system set up, you can connect and grab that information via RDBMS, or you can just replicate this on your SQL server. We provide all of that information to you. And then if you choose not to integrate, we can export that information or create reports in both PDF and CSV formats. All of those are configurable by the user, so you can really customize the information that you want. Finally, we support your MES and ERP decision making. Most often, this means monitoring of consumption, totalization of inputs, and providing those values throughout these different data structures, so that you can see, okay, how much of this particular constituent ingredient did I use in this batch. The same is true, of course, for outlets and production volumes. And then you can stamp those things with lot numbers. That could be by user entry, scanning of a barcode, or sent directly from your control system. The fact that we develop all of our systems on virtual machines, means that we can enable software FAT. We can also give you kind of a test copy of your system prior to system construction. That didn't used to be as important as it is today, but with current supply chain issues, it can be really interesting for you to get your hands on our software prior to coming to see the equipment for the first time. Oftentimes, we can adapt to a lot of your feedback before you ever come on site to FAT. It also enables us to give you some initial training. And it enables us, as a service, to retain a clone of your system after delivery, so that if you have process questions that come up, you can then export your recipe, send it to our process engineers. They can run it on our system, on our simulation, and give you some feedback about what might be going wrong. We provide also user-facing simulation for all OCELOT systems. That allows your operators to practice recipe writing and run those recipes without ever using any constituent ingredients. Of course, this does enable you to maybe more quickly onboard new employees, to try out new things as you're trying to do process development. And it can also be replicated on a virtual twin to enable that training without disrupting system operation. Finally, AKBA provides a suite of bespoke browser-based tools for an enhanced user experience in your connected plant. This currently includes our method editor, batch reporting tool, and audit trail applications, but it is constantly evolving. I have a couple screenshots of the different application locations here. It relies on a centralized data server. It's just a browser, and it's mobile friendly because it's Chromium based. So you see a couple different screen layouts. So you can walk around your plant with a tablet and interact with the system. You can do parallel operation. There's no licensing. It's available to all the devices on the same LAN or VPN, and that means that you can be sitting at home in your shorts at your home office and editing recipes without having to gown up and go into the clean room, depending on, of course, your IT infrastructure. I like to say that it uses kind of like a Google Drive concept where we can have concurrent editing. You can have one user logged in at the skid. You can have another user logged in with their own credentials, editing recipes, etc. If they edit, the one place where we kind of deviate from that is that, of course, we have to be 21 CFR Part 11 compliant. So if you're making edits to a recipe, you've checked it out. It's not available to any other users. The last saved revision of that recipe can be run by an operator, but until you save a new, commit a new recipe revision, it's not going to be available for anybody else. All the user edits are authenticated by the SCID, so that means no setup at all those local devices. Everything is managed locally by our centralized data server. Of course, this is great for training purposes, and separate of all of that kind of connective technology, the method editor has a lot of helper tools throughout the operation. So you can see. It's very small, of course, but some helper text for each of your fields, range and units, description of the fields. As you go to add a step type, you get a description of what that step type might be used for. And throughout that process, you can then save favorites. You can use them again for other recipes. You can slightly modify them. You can parameterize your recipes with something that we call control parameters, so you can edit them at point of use. So if you want to make 100 liters of buffer today and 1,000 liters of buffer tomorrow, that's fine. If your column pack and your purification suite was 15.1 centimeters today and it's 14.9 tomorrow, you can use the same validated recipe with that new piece of information. Finally, a couple takeaways. As an OEM, we can't bring you all the way to Pharma 4.0, but we can certainly help you move in the right direction. If there are things that you feel that we could be doing that we're not right now, I'd love to get that feedback once we get to questions as well. I spoke briefly about collaboration. That is, of course, is among industry partners, but also we need to know from you what you need as process chemists. You don't have to make the entire leap today. Incremental steps are easy to define, and they have a huge impact. You may even have technology in place that can be used in a more connected or predictive way. You saw maybe half of my examples, I think, were already existing technologies. They're not necessarily new shiny objects. And enabling technologies can also be installed ahead of plant readiness for this effort. So if you plan to integrate later, or you plan to have a PI historian, or you plan to have redundant collection, you can install islands of automation today that are ready to be plugged into that later. And to come back to my point about us all learning, I think evolution and iteration is key. The continuous process verification concept supports this, and our goal is to support you in that process. And finally, people are central to this effort. Think of them as Workforce 4.0. A lot of these efforts are about bringing people up the learning curve. It's hard for us to put the talent in this industry that we need. So the concept of digitalization is certainly not one I think that should make us all feel like Luddites. This technology is not going to replace your current workforce. It's going to enable them to do their job in a more effective way. Now a little shameless plug with a fun marketing video for OCELOT System Control. And a couple of acknowledgments. First to Desiree and Steve in the AKB marketing department for helping me kind of define the structure of this presentation and certainly helping with graphics. That is not my area of expertise. To Brian Crawford for some technical support in presentation development. To my wife for maybe less technical support but a lot of listening to the presentation. And finally to the TIDES committee for having me here today. And thank you all for coming and attending the talk. I'd be happy to take any questions or suggestions. Things that you need.
For the Motive 5.0, what kind of feedback control are you guys using these days?
It's still primarily pH and connectivity. We have used a couple other technologies. I think RI for some sugar-based compositions, and of course we can integrate any sensor type that you want. It's just control. So if you know that you have a process indicator, we can certainly install a sensor in line. Is there a specific reason for the question?
I mean, obviously we've been bitten before.
Yeah.
with NAR and connectivity, so I'm curious where you guys are doing it now.
Yeah, and pH can have some tricky particular ingredients as well.
Yeah.
And we've seen some great collaborative efforts from individual vendors on that topic. E&H is kind of focusing on that at the moment.
Tomorrow I'll show you what I've been doing with flow.
Okay, great, great. Your counter to my presentation. We'll have to talk more.
So the one slide that you had, I remember seeing the Ethernet IP communication, and there was also Modbus. What are you using Modbus?
Only for people who want to have direct messages with their Siemens PLCs, so Step 7 controllers or things like that. So just to accommodate that direct installation without any other supervision.
That's a great answer.
Anyone else? All right, thanks for the time, everyone. Cheers.